How can I describe this catastrophe? I had worked hard for nearly 2 years, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created.
Regarding Frankenstein is crowdfunding now. Go to bit.ly/REFrankenstein to support the show.
This week's episode is brought to you by Universal Pictures' Black Phone 2. On October 17th, discover the secret behind the mask. Critics are calling Black Phone 2 a cold-blooded masterpiece, and it's the rare sequel that's scarier than the original. Ethan Hawke is pure nightmare fuel and returns as the Grabber, and Mason Thames as Finney. This time, vengeance isn't going to let death stand in its way. Spine-chilling and heart-pounding, it'll get under your skin and into your dreams. Blumhouse and director Scott Derrickson's anticipated sequel asks the question, do you know what happens when you die? Find out on October 17th when Black Phone 2 arrives in theaters. Today's episode is sponsored by I Know What You Did Last Summer. Get it now on digital. When 5 friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, they cover up their involvement and make a pact to keep it a secret, rather than face the consequences. A year later, their past comes back to haunt them, and they're forced to confront a horrifying truth. Someone knows what they did last summer and is hell-bent on revenge. As one by one, the friends are stalked by a killer, they discover this happened before, so they turn to 2 survivors of the legendary Southport Massacre of 1997 for help. Starring Madeline Klein, Chase Sue Wonders, Jonah Hauer King with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a perfect summer slasher, says Jordan Cruciolo of NPR. Your summer is not over yet. Don't miss a killer movie night at home.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking You've Got a Perfectly Good Bug Where You Used to Have a Rotten Kidney. We're talking Annabelle Brown Was a Pretty Popular Girl Around Starliner Towers. And we're talking I'm Hungry for Love. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking cherry pie.
God, okay.
I put in my notes licking cherry pie like a pussy, but I figured that might be too crude to open up the episode, so here we are.
You just said it 10 seconds later.
That's what editing's for. I'm just kidding. Don't edit this out. No, everyone,
I would never.
We are discussing David Cronenberg's technical feature directorial debut. He directed some underground films before this, but this is his first quote-unquote real film in Shivers, or if you were in the United States when this came to theaters, they came from within.
Yeah, which is definitely not as good a title.
No. Shivers is way better. I mean, I am partial to the original title, which was Orgy of the Blood Parasites, but, you know, it's a little long.
I think you're going to run into some censorship problems. I mean, this movie already stoked controversy, as I'm sure you're going to tell us about in your production history, so maybe we were like, what is a title we can actually market that will allow people to go and see it?
Yeah, and Shivers is definitely, I mean, again, when we clued y'all in last week with big content warnings, this movie is kind of filled with sexual assaults.
Yes.
Kind of. It is filled with sexual assaults. It is filled with sexual assaults.
But it's also, maybe this will get me into trouble, and maybe it's just the fact that it's 50 years after the fact, because happy 50th Shivers.
Oh, right.
But I think there's something odd about the depiction of sexualized violence. Like, this to me is sometimes closer to a zombie film in some ways, because these people are not even people when they're possessed by these slugs.
I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe you were going to say there's something funny about some of the sexual assaults in this film, or maybe a similar word. And I will say, I'm not going to say they're funny, but I will say that when I screened this film for Terror Tuesday, there was a lot of laughter. Now, not throughout the film, but it was kind of alternating between unease and laughter and actual horror, because I do think this film has a lot of it. And I can't tell if some of the humor in this movie is necessarily intentional, or if it's maybe because the acting isn't necessarily the strongest, or if it's because there is a real lo-fi aesthetic to this thing. And
you could call it cheap. You could say it's cheap.
It looks very cheap. I think, yes, the idea of the sexual assault in this movie is pretty horrifying, but I do think the depiction of them sometimes can be a bit humorous. And again, not saying sexual assault is humorous here. I just think there's something a bit goofy about some of the way that they're presented.
Yeah, and I think part of it is that we could attribute that to Cronenberg still sort of finding his, he's in the pool waiting around with the water wings trying to figure out if he can float or if he's going to be able to swim and so on. Like, this feels like a litmus test for who David Cronenberg will become. A lot of the ideas, a lot of the character archetypes, as well as some of the more technical elements. Like, I've seen a bunch of people say, oh, some of the just straightforward dialogue scenes in this feel very weird and stagey, because it just seems like Cronenberg isn't quite as comfortable with his shooting yet.
Well, you're probably right, but I think, because so much of Cronenberg's actors have this kind of cold, clinical aspect to them. And I think we are seeing that here, but because it's shot kind of shoddily, it has a different feel to it. Like, it doesn't feel like that classic Cronenberg coldness that I'm used to.
Right. Yeah. The aesthetic is definitely different. And I think some of the people are just also not super great actors. Like, some of these people are clearly not professional.
Yeah, but we'll get that. Do you remember the first? Because you're the Cronenberg head between the two of us. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when you first saw this?
I remember when I saw it, and I was actually thinking about it and deconstructing it and like analyzing it properly, because this was a component of my original PhD thesis. So this was going to form the kind of foundation, because I was looking at genre film in Canada, and this is really one of the kind of bellwether pieces. In addition to many of Cronenberg's films in the 80s, it's like there was Cronenberg, and then we had the slasher film where, we got Jamie Lee Curtis up here for a couple of movies and a bunch of other titles and so on. But I think I must have seen it before that. But yeah, I guess the first time I really remember watching it would have been in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I definitely saw this, funnily enough, at a Terror Tuesday screening in Austin. I mean, God, probably at least 10 years ago. And my husband brought me to it. He was very much like, oh, it's supposed to be Cronenberg's first... I'm sorry, it's Cronenberg's first film. It's supposed to be pretty good, so let's go. And I was like, well, what's it about? Oh, it's about sex slugs. And I was like, oh, done. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, right? Because part of me thinks, like, folks, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, what's really queer about this movie? I mean, it's just infused throughout with sexuality, and many of it, as you said, it's exploitation-y, so there's a lot of taboo, deviant sexuality, so we're hitting that sort of traditional definition of queer. It's just unusual, it's weird, but I just think anytime you've got slugs going into people's bodies, it's like, you can't not be thinking about sexy stuff. Like, and we've got people just passing it back and forth. Like, there is literally a lesbian kiss where you see a slug go from one woman's throat to the other.
I was gonna say, you're saying, well, what's queer about this? And I'm like, well, no, we literally get we get one lesbian kiss in this movie.
Yes, and then we have a bunch of gays running around in skimpy underwear.
Yes. The real predatory gays, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Don't you want to come party?
I did. I was like, I'll get a slug for you guys. Let's go.
Jesus. Yes. Put that in your Grindr profile, right?
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so yeah, let's go into this. I'm actually pulling all of this from Vestron's Blu-ray that was released back in 2020. Vestron, but not a company that I really buy from a lot unless they're selling all the Wishmaster movies for $17.
There we go. Yes.
And I mean $17 for all of them, not for each one.
I love it.
Okay. So, yes. Writer-director David Cronenberg had done some feature-length underground films, namely Stereo and The Original Crimes of the Future, which, to my knowledge, because you've seen the new one, Joe, they're not really that related, are they?
Same title, completely different premise.
That's what I thought. Okay. But he gave up on the idea of being a novelist, which I guess is something he was really kind of wanting to do at that time, when he realized he wanted to be a professional filmmaker. And this realization apparently happened after he took a trip to the Cannes Film Festival, or he might have been in France when he was shooting Crimes of the Future. So he was like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. He knew, though, that meant if he was going to stay in Canada, he would have to go to Montreal and engage with Cinepix, because Cinepix had been a distributor of films and then decided to go into film production. And I guess in Canada at the time, they were like the film company. So he's like, well, we're going to have to move from Toronto to Montreal.
There we go.
But he said that they had made some very lovely, gentle, softcore porn films like Valerie, which were also apparently very political. And he says in the Quebec manner. I don't know what that means.
I mean, you know that Quebec sort of treats itself like its own private entity because they've got different language laws, a completely different culture. They have a completely different star system, but they also have a different sort of sensibility. So sense of humor, jokes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, these weren't just porn films. They were funny and witty, but they also had a political bite to them. In Cronenberg's words, though, they were his kind of people. And I should also say that Cinepix is now Lionsgate.
Oh, there we go.
Now, he showed Cinepix his script for Shivers and said, and this is a direct quote from him, so I'm just going to read it. "This is what I want to do. I'm a horror filmmaker. I didn't plan to be, but it just happened, and that's what came out of me when I started typing away on the typewriter. Are you interested?"
You know what? If you got to sell yourself, you might as well be honest.
Well, and they were very interested because their sex films did sell well in Europe, but they couldn't get them to play it all in America. And they knew that Roger Corman low-budget type of horror films had a market in America, so they were like, well, Shivers can be our Canadian homegrown version of that.
Right, and we're still kind of sneaking in the sexy bits.
Very much so. Although, I mean, like, there's a lot of sex. There's a lot of clothed sex, like people rubbing on each other in this movie, but there's not a lot of actual fucking happening on camera.
No, because we always have to interrupt it with the horror.
Right. Or a slug transference or some kind. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm calling that horror.
But Cinepix didn't exactly necessarily want Cronenberg as the director because, well, they weren't sure of how his style of underground films would translate into a commercial or mainstream kind of film. So they were like, hey, we want this. We're just going to buy the script from you. And he goes, no. If you want the script, you have to take me too. So he took a risk and they said, all right, I guess so.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we've heard of many other people try to take that route, but you have to be prepared for them to say, okay, well, I guess it's a no.
Yeah, and then keep going, lick your wounds, and go to someone else. Although he probably didn't have many options in early 1970s Canada.
Not for this kind of film. We didn't make these kinds of films.
Oh, I thought you were using the we. We did not make these kinds of films.
Canadians.
I know. I'm just as if you were alive back in the 70s. It was not easy to get Shivers financed because it was a horror film. And according to Cronenberg, there was no tradition in Canadian filmmaking of genre films of any kind. Because this is briefly after Black Christmas, or actually maybe around the same time, because Black Christmas is 74, so they probably would have been going through all of this like the year after Black Christmas got made or got released.
Yeah, and let's be real. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about it, but Black Christmas didn't have the easiest road either. I mean, it helped that Bob Clark had made other movies, so maybe he had inroads into the film industry, but it's still just like Canada, like Australia, all of these Commonwealth countries where we get financing from the government, but also we don't have the infrastructure for homegrown, definitely cinema, but especially horror. It also gets treated like this black sheep thing. It's like, oh, well, we make so few films and you want to make horror? Like, ew, it's such a low bar, low status kind of genre thing.
If only they had made this film today, because I talked to my mother, her birthday was this past week, and she's on the phone with me. She doesn't really watch a lot of horror movies, but she was like, I've been hearing it, like all the talk shows talking about how horror is like the thing right now.
So
like
hot
everyone
right
wants to
now.
do it. I know. I was like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. Look at you like knowing about horror. But I was like, yeah. And then I said, well, normally the most like output of horror happens in times of political unrest. And she goes, oh yeah. Like, yeah, look at today. Look at the world we live in today. But anyway, so Cinepix knew they were going to need financing from the Canadian government in order to make this work because they couldn't front the bill themselves.
Right.
So Cronenberg, thinking, well, that's never going to happen, he goes to LA his first time, and he took his project around to a lot of places, like Roger Corman's production house. And every place he took this script to, they said, oh yeah, like we'll totally make that. Like this is something we would absolutely make. And Roger Corman even said, yes, we would make this film. So,
but not with him as director, right?
No. So I don't know if the discussions got that far, because what Cronenberg says is he had all these people saying, yes, we'll do it. So he goes back to Toronto thinking he was going to have to move to LA, as many other Canadian filmmakers had done. But
right.
When he got back, Cinepix had already convinced the Canadian Film Development Corporation, now known as Telefilm, to invest in Shivers.
Okay, so they were like, oh, we don't want to lose the homegrown talent to the U.S.
There was no reason provided. So, and Cronenberg says, this was a very crucial moment in my career, because if they hadn't gotten that financing, I absolutely would have moved to L.A., and that would have been the rest of my career. And to this day, I have never shot a foot of film in America.
No, he hasn't. He has shot other movies outside of Canada, but even that took him a very long time.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't know when this interview was. It was on the 2020 Blu-ray. It might have been a holdover from a previous release, but I mean, either way, it's still like it. He looked fresh.
Okay.
But Cronenberg felt ultimately that he would have to learn how to make a movie on the job, because even though he had made these experimental films, he didn't know how to make a movie. He knew how to make a film, but not a movie. And so we have executive producers John Dunning and Andre Link, who were all involved with Cinepix. And Dunning was the creative side. Link was the financing and distribution side. But what they did was, basically, for the first production meeting, which Cronenberg said I had no idea what was going on, they brought a bunch of people that did have a lot of film experience into the production meeting and put them all around Cronenberg. Basically, they said, look, you don't know how to make a film. We're going to teach you, but you're going to have to learn from all these people. And so Cronenberg was like, this was like this movie taught me how to make movies. These people, this crew, you wouldn't find that kind of fostering a new filmmaker from a lot of producers. But I was so lucky to get that here, because they said, well, we can't trust you, but we're going to trust you enough to learn from all these people. And they didn't overshadow him too much. They weren't like, hey, how you doing? These dailies aren't looking great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much the infrastructure exists to that degree, right? Because it's not like we have studios that are penny pinching and looking at dailies. I don't know if that's really a thing. Maybe it is now, but back in the day, probably not. But even that story that you just told, it reminds me a lot of how Clive Barker made Hellraiser, right? Where he was like, I've got this idea, I really want to do it. And they said, okay, we kind of believe in you, but also we're just going to surround you by really talented people that you can rely on, because they know their shit. So even when you don't know yours, they will help you through it.
Ooh, and everyone, go back and listen to the Hellraiser episode if you haven't already, because that was one of my favorite production histories to do.
Messy, complicated, but interesting.
Very interesting, exactly. I love the ones that really tell me about the film industry, the side that you don't get to hear in all the press interviews and things like that. But
well, yeah, we're not sugarcoating it.
No, not at all. But yeah, so Shivers was shot at Nuns Island, an island located in the St. Lawrence River that forms a part of Montreal, in August and September of 1974. As I said, the original title was Orgy of the Blood Parasites, because, in Cronenberg's words, he didn't want to hold back of what the story was about.
I mean, it does really lay it out for you, doesn't it?
Yep. At a certain point, they pulled it back to the parasite murders, a bit less confrontational. But they ultimately called it Shivers in Canada, and they came from within in the US. Now, here's the wild thing. So, apparently this film did bomb in America. It did not make very much money at all. There were screenings in San Antonio, Texas, which I was like, really? San Antonio?
That's an unusual choice, okay.
Wild. It made about $1 million in Canada, which was really high at the time. And
that is big. That's good money.
It wound up making worldwide $5 million in about 40 countries. This is the first film that ever returned the investment of the Canadian Film Development Corporation. So this is kind of leading into the reception for this film. So reviews at the time were mixed, not overwhelmingly negative, a lot of negative ones, but right now, today, we're looking at an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, people have come around to it, but that was not the case back in the day.
Well, even Ebert gave this a 2.5, and he said, I was expecting some really lowbrow exploitation film, and what I found instead was actually something that was actually quite a bit better than that. So I think even he was seeing kind of some of Cronenberg's talent, even through all the B-moviness of it all.
Right.
But Letterboxd users have given this a 3.2 out of 5 or a 6.4 out of 10. But the big controversy with this film. So
there we go. Yeah, let's get to it.
A man by the name of Robert Fulford. He was writing under the pseudonym Marshall Delaney, and he wrote it for this article. I don't know what else he used a pseudonym for. I have to imagine if it was anything where he was attacking somebody, he probably used a pseudonym, to which I say, that's fucked up. Like, if you're gonna
show yourself,
if you're gonna do that, put your name. And this is before the internet, you know, like just fucking put your name out there. It's fine. But anyway, he was writing for the national Canadian magazine Saturday Night, and he crucified Shivers with an article titled, "You should know how bad this film is. After all, you paid for it." And he's, of course, speaking about Canadian tax dollars. Now, the irony of all of this, though, is that by the time this article came out, Shivers had already recouped its money and already repaid all the taxpayers and given them a profit, which is not something that Fulford even mentioned in this article.
Wow, selective. Also, you can trash him, but Fulford was a very, very respected arts critic and essayist. So, like, Saturday Night it's like a very, very big magazine, or it was. It's defunct now.
Sure, but then why use a pseudonym for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think because he is punching down.
I mean, yeah, but look at fucking Gene Siskel. You know, we bitch about that Friday the 13th review all the time, and it sucks. It's horrible that he did that, but at least he had the balls to put his name on it.
Oh, sure, but you have to remember we're so much more polite.
I would argue it's impolite to lie. But whatever. Anyway, this article, this was a controversy. It didn't actually affect Shivers at all, but... No. It did affect Cronenberg's career for the next few years because it scared Telefilm. They were afraid to finance his next film, Rabid. So it basically cost Cronenberg a few years until they found a way to put... Basically what they did with Rabid is they put 3 movies together as a package and sold them together like that. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't really finance the film, even though they were all ready to go with it, because they were like, we can't take someone else like Fulford, like, writing something about that. And because now they know about Shivers, it's going to come out before the movie comes out and hurt us being able to, like, market it and promote it.
Yeah, it was bad press. But it's even funny, right? Because nowadays, if you think about it, we technically work for Cineverse, which is the owner of Bloody Disgusting and a bunch of other things. And, like, they're the folks behind stuff like the Terrifier films, and they would just lean into that bad press. Like, oh, we're the movie that got the Canadian government scared to fund genre films. Finance our next movie because you know it's going to be badass.
And I think that's the Canadian of it all, though, because I feel like that's something Roger Corman would have absolutely done at the time. Right. But maybe it's because the Canadian film industry wasn't fully established at that point. It's like, we can't, like, this could topple the entire Canadian film industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you're going to get to it or if it's just something that you didn't come across, but it actually went further than that. This movie was publicly debated in our House of Parliament.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a segment basically after Fulford's piece where it had caused this controversy, and all of a sudden they were like, maybe we should reevaluate where public arts funding goes to because we shouldn't be supporting exploitative films that are in poor taste.
So, oh my God, this is like another moral debate on like...
It 100% was. Yeah.
And so again, though, that also could have toppled or at least drastically altered the entirety of the Canadian film industry.
Exactly. And you're right. I think part of it was that we didn't have that genre base to work with. Like, I think I've told this story before, probably in other Cronenberg episodes, but like basically our film industry started with realistic documentaries. And then people started to push that into the fiction realm. But there was still this onus to produce, like, if you're going to make a feature, if it's going to be fiction, you're doing it with public funds. So you have to be super responsible. Like, it needs to be about the plight of, you know, New Brunswick fishermen and how it's really difficult because they keep getting put out of work during the off season. So it had to be those kinds of like very serious minded, which is not to say those movies were bad per se, but the idea of making a shocking film about venereal disease passed around by slugs is just like, what are we doing? This is not appropriate.
But I guess, I mean, surely there must be a disclaimer when you're paying your Canadian taxes and it's like, hey, like this percent of your taxes are going to go for like to arts and the films. You don't have a say in that. There's a committee and they vote. And this committee passes film.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't get to check the box that says, like, I don't want to support genre filmmaking in Canada. It's like, no, those decisions get to be made by people who work at Telefilm. But it also doesn't stop people like my fucking father, who I love, but he is a curmudgeon-y old fuck a lot of the time. And he will complain about, oh, well, what is CBC putting money into? Which is like the Canadian Broadcasting Association. So it's like the people who make a lot of TV and podcasts and news and stuff in Canada. But like people like my dad would have been the people who would have complained about Shivers back in the day.
It raises my hackles when people are debating like morality of fucking art. It really gets on my nerves so fucking much. I hate it. Oh, I hate it.
Well, and as you said, like this could have changed the direction for genre filmmaking in Canada. It also could have not given us David fucking Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Because he goes on to become the most celebrated Canadian filmmaker of all time. Like, he is one of probably like 2 or 3 of our most cherished filmmakers in this country. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it fucking starts with Shivers, people.
Yeah, I guess we have a lot more famous Canadian actors than Canadian filmmakers. But I guess like you don't always know when it's a Canadian actor unless you look it up.
Yeah.
But I guess all those Canadian actors also moved to LA. So,
well, that's what happens is we lose them. It's like a brain drain, only acting drain, talent drain. There we go.
But that's why though the Canadian actors that say in Canada, you see them on you did see them on the CW, but not anymore.
Yes, every single genre television show that you watch
is Canada.
Oh, you love Supernatural? It's Canadian, bitch.
It's Canadian. It's all Canadian. But okay, Joe, what happens in Shivers?
A sleep clinic, a group of exhausted narrators, and dreams that don't stay in the dark. Every night in October, nightmares become reality. Listen to this epic 31-part saga where the only thing scarier than the dreams is the therapy. Creepy presents The 31 Days of Horror. The nightmare begins October 1st. Listen to the whole series on the Creepy feed wherever you listen to podcasts. Wake up to the nightmare.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Okay, folks, see if you can follow along, because this is a film in search of a protagonist in the first act.
If you had to pick a protagonist, I guess Roger St. Luke would be the protagonist. Yeah. I would argue Forsyth. Nurse Forsyth is kind of a protagonist too, but... yeah.
Yes, I think a lot of people sort of lump them together, but because they're introduced not super late, but they're not your introduction to the film, I think a lot of people get very confused when it's not Nick and Janine. People are like, wait, so these aren't the people we're following throughout the course of the film?
I gotta say, because Janine does disappear from this movie, and then when you cut back to her, and then she immediately gets slugged. But I actually think that's a really bold narrative choice. And
I agree.
We can compare it, yes, to the Janet Leigh and Psycho thing, but there's something different about this, because we're not just following Janine for this film. This first act, as you said, we're like hopscopping.
There's a bunch of different people. I mean,
so many.
Here's the thing. The best way, if you've never seen this movie, folks, and you plan to after you listen to the episode, pay attention to how this movie opens, because... in some ways, the star, quote unquote, or the protagonist of the film is Starliner Apartments. It's not about the character so much as this isolated apartment complex that's on an island. Sure, it's only 12.5 minutes away from Montreal. A very quick drive to downtown if you were working there. But also, the idea is that it's just secluded enough that you could have this outbreak and keep it contained.
Well, because it's also like its own city. Because this opening voiceover, I love the way it opens with this like almost like an advertisement for the Starliner complex. But
100%, yeah.
They have all these amenities. Like it is an infomercial, but then they also have a dentist and a doctor on site, which I was like, that's different. Like in an apartment complex, but also it's like its own little mini city.
Yeah. We're actually removing one of the words in the title. It's technically Starliner Cruise Apartments. It's meant to be like a cruise ship, only it's an apartment building. So the idea is that, yes, you have all of the amenities that you need, which means you never have to leave. It's kind of gently ironic because it talks about how the community is so important. You're going to meet all these people, but also, hey, you're super isolated. You don't have to interact with any of the riffraff in the big bad city.
No, not at all. Instead, they got to deal with this Mr. Merrick who looks like a pedophile.
Well, I mean, there's other pedophiles in the mix, so he just
not
looks
lies.
creepy.
You're not lying.
No, I'm not lying. Yeah, so Ronald Merrick is, yes, our introduction. He actually does the voiceover for this slideshow presentation. So he is played by Ronald Mlodzik.
Also a gay man in real life, by the way.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
Let's get the party started. The other thing that I really like about this, even though, yeah, it's mostly a slideshow, like it's not even video, you know, it's kind of intermixing the two.
Yeah.
But I love that it's doing the Wes Craven geography, right? It's like,
it sure
hey,
is.
There's a pool here. We're going to go to the pool later. Hey, there's a dentist in a doctor's office. We're going to go to the doctor's office later. So it helps you to just get a sense of where things are, even though, I mean, I would argue if you've ever been in an apartment that has amenities, it's not that confusing.
I do love that cable television is like also standard for most units. Ooh.
I mean, it's 1975, folks. 50 years. It's a very different living situation.
God, 50 years. That is wild. This is that long ago, but okay.
Okay, so initially, you might think that the new couple who are getting the tour from Merrick might be our protagonists. So this is Kesmer and Brenda Sviven, who are played by Vlasta Vrana and Sylvie Dubois, respectively. So they come in to take a tour. They're meeting Merrick. They're greeted by the doorman, who is played by Wally Martin. And then we immediately begin to crosscut. A lot of cross-cutting throughout this movie because we want to make sure that we understand there's multiple facets of action happening in different places at the same time.
For
so
sure.
It's like, here, very gentle introduction to this world. Everything is super nice. It's beautiful. It's pretty. And then we're contrasting that with a horrendous, what appears to be sexual assault by an older man on a teenage girl.
Yes. It's very jarring at first because there doesn't always seem to be a rhyme or reason for all the cross-cutting. No. And it's unwieldy, but like I like it. Like to me, this adds like just kind of a weird Cronenberg touch to it. But yes, this sexual assault, which I feel like too, you're trying to figure out what's going on here because...
Yeah.
Like... Of course, we'll find out that, she has a slug in her and that he's trying to kill the slug and then he kills himself.
But we don't know that. So it just seems like this older man comes in. So we will eventually learn this is Dr. Emil Hobbs, played by Fred Doderlane. And he is attacking Annabelle, who is played by Kathy Graham. But like she is coded schoolgirl young.
Yeah.
He is a mature man. He's a little bit bigger. He's got glasses. He's kind of balding. Like he cuts an intimidating figure compared to her small stature. And he just comes into this apartment and starts throwing her around. He's choking her on the couch. When she blacks out, he throws her onto the dining room table, rips open her blouse, cuts open her stomach, and pours acid into the wound.
Yeah, you are not mincing words there, and that is exactly what happens. It is less gruesome than you would think. Like one thing I do think is interesting about this movie is that Cronenberg does not really like focus on the gore of the piece. Like we do have a lot of like sluggy stuff going on. There's some really good practical effects that we'll get to with Nick's stomach later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're not really doing gore in this movie. So I think that's also why I find it surprising that this movie was such a hot topic debate because of the subject matter. But I don't even think the content of the film is that offensive, all things considered.
I think even the way I described it, people probably imagine far worse than what you're actually seeing on screen.
100%.
Yeah, but I think you could apply that to the entire film, right? If somebody described this movie to you, it's about, sexually aggressive slugs that are infiltrating and like forcing themselves. I mean, we will talk about Betts's bathroom scene because, of course, that's one of the most infamous moments. You can actually get some physical media releases of this had that as the box art. So
that makes sense.
Titillation. But I think so many things about this film sound worse just describing them as opposed to actually seeing them, because I do think you're right. Cronenberg is actually pulling back from this. Like, he's never actually been that interested in gore. He would rather gross you out with something like The Fly than to show you, here's a mutilated body.
I was going to say, I think The Fly might be his grossest and goriest film, and I think it's key that he also didn't write that film.
Yeah, it's that, and then people would probably say The Exploding Head in Scanners, but even that is more a practical tour de force.
Yeah, I would even say, it's gory, but it's not like I'm not
it's
grossed
like
out watching.
Movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring in my one and only reference for this film. It's Nate Yap's review for classichorror.com. And I think Yap just sometimes does a better job of summarizing things that I was already thinking, so I'm going to reference him. So he says, intercut with the seemingly meaningless aggression is a small bit where Starliner's rental manager discusses apartment options with a married couple, creating a grotesque juxtaposition between the brutality and the banal.
Yeah.
And I like that idea because so much of this, like there's a bunch of parts of this movie where you just think, oh, this is regular people living their boring ass lives in this very kind of sterile apartment building. And then what happens when it intersects with sex and violence?
Well, and I think, too, because what I noticed in this rewatch for me was I thought the first 30 minutes of this movie went by really quickly. Like, I remember I checked my time and I was like, oh, wow, it's already at the 30-minute mark where there's an hour left. There's less than an hour left of this movie. And then once, like, the outbreak started happening, then it started to move slower for me. Not in a bad way. Like, in the good, like, oh, this is, like, kind of horrifying. Like, it's time is moving slower type of way.
It's a weird phenomenon, right? Because we do get quite a lot of exposition. And as we mentioned, we're meeting up just a ton of characters and you don't really know who's important or which storylines are going to come back or how or when they're going to interweave. But I find the early parts of the film very interesting because you are trying to figure out the mystery and understand where the film is going. And then I do find the back part of it gets a little bit repetitive, but then Cronenberg will switch up the nature of the attacks or take you into a different part of the building. And then there, to me, are some all-timer pieces. Like, I think the pool sequence that ends this film is probably one of my top 10 favorite endings.
It's really good. No, it's really, 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 really good. I agree with you.
Okay, so yes, we're getting this attack, and then in another apartment, we're introduced to Nick Tudor, who is played by Alan Coleman, and he is poking at his abdomen while he is brushing his teeth, and then he goes out and shares this very kind of awkward, stilted breakfast with his wife, Janine, who is played by Susan Petrie, and you can just tell something is off between these two. Like, she's trying to be very supportive, checking in on him, and he just doesn't want to engage with her. Like, he just seems out of it.
Well, and I think it's really interesting. It's an interesting choice that we don't get to meet, like, Nick and Janine pre him getting infected, because by this point we don't know this yet, but he's already been infected by a slug. So
yes,
it's a done deal. But also, come on, he's like a Jeff Goldblum like wannabe, right? Like,
he has a very similar kind of look. It's the hair, right?
It's the hair, and his face, his bone structure is very similar. But there's never a point in this movie where I like Nick.
No. If only because I think you're right. We never really meet Nick. We only meet Nick as he is being not consumed, but he is being driven by these kind of animalistic urges. Like, I mean, I guess the thesis of the film is that the slugs open people up to their sexual desires, right? So whatever you are already interested in, the slugs will just remove your inhibitions and encourage you to act on it.
Well, sometimes, because then the monologue that Forsyth gives later is that, no, everything is erotic, so you just want to fuck everything. I did have a hard time figuring out how much of the old person remained in the body, like, once the slug takes over. Like,
it's not clear.
Is the slug the one, like, is it a full parasite where the slug is actually controlling the person? It's like when a person's talking, it's actually the slug talking to you? Or is it, as you said, where it's like, oh, the slug just removes your inhibition, so it's still you. Your mind has just been altered.
Yeah, and it seems like for certain people, it's the former, and then other people, it's the latter. Because, like, with Nick, I think it's the latter, where he still has his personality. We see him talking to the slugs in his stomach in one scene, and you think, well, the slugs wouldn't talk to themselves, would they? But then other characters just seem gone. Like, it's all slug sexual id all the time.
See, now I want to, like, dive. I wish the film dove into that a bit more, but that's not the kind of movie we're doing.
No. And people really, like, at a certain point, we just don't have conversation anymore. It's just a full-blown infection parasite film. And it's like, is anybody going to get out of this?
Well, that's also why I was curious to see how, again, these types of movies, I'm like, I wonder how Joe's going to do a plot for this. So I'm interested.
Yeah, I tried to cut out some of the cross-cutting just to simplify things. So like when I talked about the sequence where Dr. Hobbs is attacking Annabelle, there's so much cross-cutting back and forth. And I was like, if I do this the way the film is presenting it, it's going to be and then this
confusing.
And then this and then this and then this, and that's not interesting.
It's too confusing.
Works well
also.
in the film, though.
Yeah, it works well when you can see it.
Yes, there we go. Okay, so speaking of seeing it, so we finish up this breakfast, and you can just tell something's not quite working within Nick and Janine's relationship, and then he leaves to go to work, even though he kind of said he wasn't going to do that, and she seems like, wait, what's going on? But he gets into the elevator, goes up to the top floor, the 15th floor, so he's not going to the office, and then we see him come into Annabelle's apartment. He notices the dead body, and then he looks surprised and upset, but then he just leaves.
Yeah, so this is the first of several people who have been fucking this teenage girl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, several adults who have been fucking this teenage
problem.
girl.
Yes, it's not like we have a bunch of teenagers running around and, Annabelle just happens to be busy with boys her own age. It's literally this, I think we're meant to read her as somewhere between about 12 and 15 years old.
Well, no, because we know that Hobbs had been like,
he'd been funding her
basically.
apartment, but yeah, he'd been fucking her since she was age 12.
Since she was age 12. And so I would wager that she's probably 16, 17 here. Maybe, if I'm being generous. But
yeah.
I mean, they don't tell us how old she is now, but she does not look like she is over the age of 17.
She looks like a teenage girl, if that. Like, I was tempted to write in my notes, this girl, this preteen girl. And it doesn't help that, she's coded like she might be going to a kind of Catholic school. It looks like a bit of a uniform, like a plaid skirt and a white top. But still, it's giving schoolgirl vibes. And all of the men in this movie, because it's a 70s film and people probably smoked, and also Montreal, they were probably drinking a fuck ton. The men look like adults. There's no young-looking men in this movie.
Right? Like, they all look like men. They're
men. And they're fucking this girl.
Oh, man.
It's rough. Yeah.
Also, this girl's only acting credit, by the way, is this movie.
Yeah, I mean, really, she barely even... Does she even have a line? I don't think so.
She doesn't speak at all. Mm-mm.
Okay.
So, couldn't get her SAG... Oh, actually, did they do SAG in Canada? I guess it's an American organization, huh?
It is, yeah. I think we have a Canadian version, but maybe not at this time. Who knows?
Yeah.
Someone will correct us. So. Okay, yes. So he leaves, he flees the apartment and just abandons the body. And then as he's doing this, we follow Janine briefly as she goes to visit her lesbian friend, Bets, who is played by Barbara Steele, arguably the biggest star to appear in this film.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with Barbara Steele, but I'm sorry. I don't think I've seen any of her work, but her name rang a bell for me.
Right. Okay. I will confess, even though Bets is barely a character in this movie,
she's the best, right?
She's my favorite character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Also, I'm sorry. She's known for being in 8.5, but also she has a role in Joe Dante's Piranha, so that's another big thing that she's done.
Right, and Dark Shadows, the TV show.
In the 1991 TV series Dark Shadows. So that's not even the original one.
No, it would have been the second one, I think.
Yeah, but she also did a lot of horror films. So she did like Bava's Black Sunday, she did The Pit and Pendulum, Castle of Blood, The Long Hair of Death, The Horrible Dr. Hitchcock, which now I'm like, well, got a lot of movies to watch now.
Yeah. She just has a spark, a kind of personality. So even in the scene where Janine is very clearly... what should I do about Nick? Nick isn't behaving the way he should. And Bets just kind of goes, like if he won't go to see the doctor, then bring the doctor to him. Like, girl, what is your fucking problem? You should just be with me.
Well, I mean, because I guess I didn't pick up on her being like a full-blown lesbian in this movie. I thought that was just like something she did whenever she got the slugged out. So I like the way that she is a lesbian. I just think she's she's very striking. Like her look is very striking. Same with Lynn Lowry, who plays Nurse Forsythe. It's their eyes. They have these just like really hypnotic-looking eyes.
Yeah, I think it's also the eyes are big compared to, I think we talked about this in one of our animated episodes or something. Oh, it might have been in either K-pop Demon Hunters or something else on Patreon.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the ways to make people very endearing, or like if you're Amanda Seyfried, it's like,
I was going to say,
just got big eyes.
They're the Amanda Seyfried of their
pull
day.
people into the face. So
but I think there's a reason, why Forsyth and Beth are the two that I kind of latch onto the most in this movie.
Yeah, I would also argue they do feel like they have interesting arcs, right? Even if they're not the biggest arcs in the film, they get interesting places to go to.
Because that's the thing with Janine. Like, Janine is just crying about Nick the entire time.
Yeah, and it may be a problem because we don't ever get to see a nice side of Nick. Like, all of the interactions between Nick and Janine is basically a walking advertisement for, girl, dump your shitty boyfriend.
Yeah, especially, not even the least of which, though, that he's been cheating on you with a teenager.
Yes. Yeah. Not the slugs, not the fact that he is like a questionable employee at the insurance agency, but whatever. Okay. So yes. So we have floated this idea of a doctor. So let's introduce Roger St. Luke, who will eventually become, I'm going to agree with you. He is the de facto protagonist, played by Paul Hampton. A little wooden, if we're being honest.
A little wooden. Yeah, he doesn't make much of an... Honestly, the thing that makes the most impression is his blonde hair.
Yes, yeah, he stands out because a lot of the cast is dark-haired, and sometimes Cronenberg doesn't always cast the best people, particularly in his lead roles. I don't think that Roger is terrible, but...
No, he's just bland.
That's the thing, is you need somebody with a slightly bigger or better personality. Now, we can talk about the doctor archetypes, because this is really where Cronenberg starts to get interested in them. But I think even Dr. Emil Hobbs is a more interesting character, and he only appeared in that first scene because he died by suicide after pouring acid into that girl.
I mean, I would say Dr. Linsky is more interesting than Dr. St. Luke as well. We haven't met Linsky yet, but like...
That is so true.
And he gets the best death in the movie, I would argue.
I love Rollo. Yeah.
I know. Is that his first name, Rollo?
It is, Rollo Linsky.
I mean, he's really stupid. Like, he flat out tells Roger, this is what's going on, and then shows up at the apartment complex like, hello? Yeah. Is anyone here?
It's classic horror movie trope, right? You know, hey, is anybody here? Why are all the lights off? Why am I dead? But I mean, earlier, he really wants Roger St. Luke's pickle. Nudge, nudge. Okay, yeah. So Roger St. Luke is being interviewed in Annabelle's apartment because he was actually called there by Dr. Hobbs. So Dr. Hobbs said, like, hey, come and meet me at this apartment at this time. He showed up, found these dead bodies, so he called the police. So he's being interviewed by this detective Heller, who's played by Barry Boldero, and he gives us a bit of background. So between him and Merrick,
he's like the marketing guy, I guess. He's almost like the real estate agent for the apartment complex.
Yeah. So between Roger St. Luke and Merrick, we get background. So the tenant was officially Annabelle, but Dr. Hobbs was the one who was renting it. His name was on the lease and so on. And then we discover that Roger St. Luke's relationship to Hobbs is that he had been taught by him at like university and had been acting as a kind of mentor. So even though they hadn't seen each other in a little while, that's why Roger got pulled into this. And part of me was like, well, you could also say that you run the clinic at the bottom of the apartment building. Okay, so he then gets called to lunch with, Hobbs, the scientific partner. This is Rollo Linsky, played by Joe Silver, and he gives us further exposition, which I think is the main thing that people found interesting about the film. Like, it's not just exploitation, it's not just sexual urges. There's some weird parapsychology nonsense going on with the pseudoscience. So Rollo says that they were looking to create a useful parasite to take over the function of an organ. So that's how this all kind of started. But then we will come to learn that Hobbs actually corrupted this or tweaked it so that all of a sudden it becomes a venereal disease in the form of a slug. And he was kind of trying to create something where people would just have fun and have like a big orgy, but then it started to gain traction and he couldn't control it. And that is ultimately why he kills Annabelle, thinking that he could stop it.
Yeah, I think the exact quote Linsky gives, and maybe I'm paraphrasing it, but it's like a combination of aphrodisiac and venereal disease that will like turn the world into like a big giant mindless orgy or something like that. And so, but that realization, it happens off screen. We have to hear about it from Linsky at a later exposition dump. Yes. But yeah, he just thought, okay, yeah, that the world's better off with something like this, so I'm going to create it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then realized he couldn't control it and it wasn't going to be fun, so then he had to kill this preteen girl. And yes, this first scene is where we do get confirmation that Hobbs was sexually assaulting this underage girl and had been doing it for several years. And apparently Dr. Linsky knew about this because Hobbs had brought Annabelle around the office, and it is delivered, Trace, in the most nonchalant kind of, oh yeah, he was committing statutory rape and I didn't give a fucking shit about it. This movie is wild.
Yeah, I mean, people don't react in the way that a normal person like you or me would react to some of this news. And I do think that's intentional, but it can be a bit jarring when you're watching it going, why are y'all not reacting to this?
Yeah, shouldn't you be outraged by this? Shouldn't you have taken a stand against it? Like, even if you're a scientist and you say, oh, well, I'm dispassionate about this because in some ways it was more like an experiment, it's still pretty fucking weird. Like, I don't even think the 1975 of it excuses it. It's not like, oh, well, we were a little bit more liberal with our sexual proclivity. Like, no, I don't think so.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because it doesn't seem like that aspect of this movie was really a big talking point for Parliament. It was just the slugs and the gore and the sexual assaults, which, again, all things considered, are not that graphic. But there's no mention of all these men fucking this teenager? Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's very, very odd. Okay, so we're getting that exposition on one side. Let's go back to Nick. Nick has gone into his office. He finally made it in there, but he's basically still very, very out of it. Like, his secretary comes in, Mrs. Wheatley, played by Joy Coghill, and she's trying to get him to pick up the phone, but he's just standing there in a daze, and he's actually leaking blood from his mouth. So she says, I think maybe you should just go home. Let me call you a cab. He refuses, says he'll just get himself there. And by this point, Janine has actually asked Dr. Roger to visit the apartment later. And that's a good thing because at this point, Nick is currently vomiting something. We don't see what it is just yet into the bathtub. And he's also barfing something over the balcony onto old women with umbrellas.
Oh, this got a huge laugh in the theater both times I've seen this.
I think it was a bird. Oh, they constantly just fly into the windows.
No, it's a big fucking... I love it, too, because this woman, the umbrella she's carrying is one of those big plastic clear umbrellas. So it's just a big red
blood stain.
Yeah, it's like a big red splotch on it.
But she just thinks it's a bird that's broken its neck or something. It's totally funny.
I do think there is a clue that Nick's relationship with Janine is maybe abusive. Maybe not physically abusive, but at least emotionally abusive. Because whenever she's talking to Betts earlier, and Betts is like, yeah, just fucking go talk to the doctor, like, whatever. But there's a line where Janine says, like, oh, Nick's not going to be happy about that.
Yes.
And that read to me like battered wife.
Right. Very controlling. Don't tell other people. Like, he would probably be mad to even hear that she was telling Betts about it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Which I'm like, girl, like, go with Betts. That's your knight in shining armor.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So in the clinic, Dr. Roger is seeing other patients. So we have a lecherous old man named Parkins, and we know that he's lecherous because he is making fuck eyes at Nurse Forsyth. And then when he gets in there, we very clearly see that he has the same kind of like stomach protrusions and so on that we have already identified as being from Annabelle. So like this old fucking dude was fucking this preteen girl.
Yeah, so she really made her way around the block.
Yes. And this is being crosscut between an attack that's happening in the laundry room with Laundry Woman, played by Nora Johnstone, and essentially she sees blood on one of the washing machines. She gets grossed out, but then when she goes to put in her laundry, she gets a slug in the face.
And these slugs, which is like, so they go in your mouth and they just do whatever they need to do to you. But if they for some reason latch onto your skin, they are burning off your skin. It's like they have like acid. I do love the way this is shot too, because she walks in the laundry room and the film will eventually like zoom in on the slug trail, the snail trail coming out of the vent on the wall, but it waits, and so you can catch it because it's this big fucking red trail on this white wall.
Yeah,
but
it's so obvious.
I love that the film like waits to like do the zoom in, like the music singing like
It's a lovely jump scare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's down for the count. Oh, I did have a note that I wanted to highlight, which is that there's a poster in Roger's office that reads, "Sex is the invention of a clever venereal disease," which is kind of just the movie telling on itself, isn't it?
Also, like, why is that poster? I guess it's to promote abstinence, to be like, don't get a venereal disease and then don't have sex.
Yeah, or to use protection.
I just thought you Canadians are more progressive than that.
No, we're more prudish. We don't like sex and alcohol and drugs and all the good things.
We only promote safe condom sex.
That's right. Yes. Okay, so Janine returns home and she finds Nick passed out in front of the open fridge in a dark apartment. And I mean, I think this would be upsetting and scary if you had a good relationship with your partner, but he's basically non-responsive. He's fully reliant on her to get him into bed. But as soon as she gets him into bed, I think the other reason that we like Janine, even though we really know virtually nothing about her, is that when she goes into the bathroom and she sees the blood where he was vomiting up everywhere, she starts to clean it up, and then she sits on the toilet and just has a cry.
Yeah.
I feel you, girl.
I mean, I kind of just was like, yeah, I mean, I'll just cry about Nick the whole time. But I mean, like,
you feel for her.
Yeah, you absolutely. Because honestly, if you're thinking about this, like, I'm assuming that most of our spouses are probably better than Nick. But like,
oh God, I hope so.
Even that, if you put yourself in her shoes, if you feel empathy, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this would absolutely. I mean, there's a moment later when he's trying to have sex with her, and she's like, let me go put on my contacts, and I thought for sure I was like, oh, she's just saying that to get away. But then she actually goes and puts on her contacts.
I know. It's just like, girl, he is practically raping you. I wrote in my notes, this is rapey because she doesn't really want to do this, and he is so insistent, and you just think, this relationship is not good.
I think that's actually one of the more fascinating things about that part of the movie, is because the way that scene is done is Nick is like, make love to me, you have to do it. And then it's only when she keeps resisting that he does get violent with her. Whereas everyone else, for the most part, it seems like, oh no, we just jump to violence. Like, we just have to like jump your bones right now. There's no easing into this situation.
Maybe. I'm trying to think if we have other examples of people who are in partnered relationships, because yeah, you're right. It does seem like it's violent, but it's because, it's a delivery man attacking a mother and her daughter in the elevator, or the three of them then attacking the doorman when they come out of the elevator. So like, there isn't that relationship where they can play around with it. Whereas we do see, if the other person, like when Janine ultimately gets infected by Bets, it's because we can have a consensual kiss.
Yeah.
So maybe the violence only accompanies if it's like, oh, well, I don't know you and I have to force this upon you.
That might be it. I mean, that to me is kind of a logical misstep that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But because I'm thinking even whenever Merrick is talking to those people, they're like, oh, they're complaining about the noise, and he's like, oh yeah, let me show you this thing in my office, and he just takes them to the office. There are just people fucking inside of it, and they immediately jump on these people.
Yeah. That is actually one scene. Like, most of this movie works for me. It's rough around the edges. As we said, some of the acting, some of the shooting isn't up to the kind of standards we will come to associate with Cronenberg. But I think that is the one misstep in this film. I don't like that scene because it feels too deliberate. Like, Merrick has literally set a trap for these people.
Oh, and see, I actually did like that because I thought that was actually, maybe it's because of the way it's shot. It's done as a wide shot.
I like the reveal. It's very much oh fuck, he just led these people into this, and he, like, because we didn't know that Merrick was infected at that point, so that's our confirmation. So I do like that, but we haven't seen that sort of deliberate nefariousness from any of the other infected people. So that's why I don't like it. It feels out of character.
I agree. We won't see something like it again. Really? Oh, man, well, maybe not.
I don't think so.
We'll see. I feel like there is something kind of like that. But either way, I liked it because I thought it was one of the scariest scenes in the movie. Because there's something also about the actor that plays Merrick. Because he doesn't jump on this couple. He just turns around and he starts. He smiles though. He smiles with like glee. And I don't know. I can see where you're coming from, but I found it like the scariest scene of the movie just because of how he reacts and how these people react.
I don't disagree with you. I think just from what we know from a characterization point of view,
Yeah.
it felt like it was inconsistent in terms of logic, but I fully agree with you. It's scary. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the 2 words I used to describe this movie.
I mean, that is what it is. It is scary and upsetting.
Yeah. Okay. So Janine has had her little cry. When she's doing this, we see Nick in bed, and he has basically pulled open his shirt so that his abdomen, which we can see is pulsing and moving, he talks to it like you would a friend or a lover, right? Like, oh, we're going to make this happen. And it's kind of wild.
We never see anyone else do something like this with these slugs, and it's a thing where I was like, oh, I guess just because I've seen so many kind of parasite type movies or body snatcher type movies where you're kind of like, okay, is he going to be like the leader of these things?
Yes, and maybe it's because he's the one who has been infected the longest, apart from Annabelle, who has of course been taken care of.
Yes. Yeah.
And we don't know. The film doesn't explain it. We just have to speculate.
But either way, he's like rubbing his stomach, going like, come on, boy, here. Like, come on, boy, like, let's go. Yeah. And you're seeing again, these are great effects for a movie, which I didn't say the budget for this film, but it was very, very, very low. Like the budget was for this movie was it was $115,000, wound up costing $179,000, which is equal to about just over $1 million in 2023.
Right.
But for that amount of money, the gut effects on him look great. I love, too, the second we hear Janine's voice come in, like, the big lumps that are moving just, like, go back down. Like, they immediately they cease.
Yeah, and she comes back in because she's worried about him. She wants to check on him, and he is so cold, so sullen. He's almost like a petulant child where he just gets angry at her and orders her out. And you could tell I think because of the sexualized nature of the film, it reminded me of that I'm masturbating and then somebody interrupts me.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you just get out, please?
I mean, that kind of is what this is. Like, this isn't a sex scene, but it does feel like a masturbation scene of sorts.
Yeah, it's like me and my special friend having a moment.
Yeah, this is no different than a guy talking to his penis. I personally never talked to my penis, but I've never seen I hear that people talk to their penises a lot.
I've heard about it around the water cooler.
I feel like I see it in straight guys, like in movies, talking to their dicks a lot, like amping themselves up by talking to their dicks.
Well, I think especially when you're making plans, right? Like, okay,
come on, buddy,
to go in and have sex, or it's not quite working. Let me try to sync myself up here. Yeah. Okay, speaking of having some privacy, having a bit of a moment, let's touch base with Bets. So she is drinking wine. She's listening to the news report about the murder-suicide in the building, and then she gets into the bath. And I should note that these 2 scenes don't happen this way. There are scenes intercut in between. Yeah. But for the purposes of our podcast, she gets into the bath, and of course, this is the infamous scene where we see the slug push its way up through the drain and swims towards the cooch.
Yeah, and this is, of course, was famously or infamously homaged by James Gunn in Slither.
Yes. Yeah. I debated whether or not to play a game with you about, how many other slug-related films have we covered, or how many do you think are actually inspired by this movie? Because I'm not going to pretend like 1975 is the first time we ever saw a space slug, but I think it's hard to watch this movie and then not see the influence that it has on like Fred Decker's Night of the Creeps as well as Gunn Slither. To me, that's like the logical, like 1, 2, 3.
And I would I don't remember if this is the case, but I would feel like both Decker and Gunn would be very candid and be like, yeah, obviously, yeah,
I think so.
We love Shivers.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. It's a fucking slug movie.
Yeah. Because we've not said it, but, the slug effects are, I think some people find them very low. Like they're just not very convincing. I kind of like that they have a puppety kind of like duty look to them. Like they look like somewhere between a penis and a piece of shit.
I mean, this is the thing where it's like, can I tell it's a fucking puppet? Yes, but I would still take
Do we care? No.
Because here's the thing, and I love James Gunn's Slither. Those slugs don't look good. They look like CGI. 2006 CGI because they are 2006 CGI, and it looks bad. This 1975 puppet looks way better.
Yeah, and I can tell you that this movie looked as either convincing or not convincing as it does now, back when it was made, back when I watched it in like 2000, because these are practical effects. So you're like, oh, well, that's a puppet. guess what? It's always looked like a puppet. Whereas James Gunn CGI, it's like, oh, that is 2016.
It's going to get worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is not to say, like, I love that movie. We
I love
cover that movie, but...
Yeah.
Okay. I will say one of the things that's most interesting about this scene, obviously, you know, sexualized violence against this woman who's just trying to relax, drink a little wine, and have a bath. Upsetting, obviously.
Yeah.
But when she gets infected, the way that Bets reacts is orgasmic. Like you see her and it looks like she's writhing in pleasure or maybe pain or maybe both.
I think that's the scary thing about so many of the possessions of this
attacks
in this movie is like it starts out, well, it's always horrifying, but it starts out with the person like afraid and screaming, but when the screams turn from a fearful scream to an orgiastic scream, that almost is more scary.
Yeah. And again, I think it comes back to the question of, is anything left of that person, or have they just succumbed to whatever the slug has done to them? And even the fact that we don't know makes it a different kind of scary, because you're like, oh, so are these people just gone and like they don't have control over their bodies anymore? Or are they in there and they're liking what they're doing now?
Well, and that's the interesting thing, too, because we do get two big exposition dumps from this Linsky doctor, but that's not part of the exposition.
No. And maybe it's just that they didn't know, or maybe Cronenberg decided who fucking cares, because it's actually not important. I like being able to speculate and hypothesize about it, but I'm not going to say the film doesn't care about it so much as the film raises a couple of things and then allows us to do the rest.
But I would say it's ambiguous, but like fascinatingly so, not frustratingly so.
Yeah. So speaking of Rollo, he does call Dr. Roger with an update. So he has been delivered Hobbs's paperwork. This is when he figures out, oh shit, this is a parasite, combination aphrodisiac and venereal disease. This is why he killed Annabelle, but also shit's gonna get real and real dangerous real fast. So Roger says, oh, I'm actually going to check on another person that I think was infected. Why don't you come and we'll check it out together? So Rollo says, yes, I'll be on my way. So there's this hint of maybe salvation or rescue that Roger will hang on to, because he knows that Rollo is on the way as shit starts to go down. It's just... I mean, from what we know of Rollo, this is putting your faith in the wrong person.
Yeah. And bear in mind, too, during all this is when Nurse Forsyth is kind of emerging as like, oh, right, like this is a character in the movie. More than 30 minutes into the film where it's like, oh, she's kind of in a relationship with Roger St. Luke, but like he doesn't seem to care about her.
I love that weird ass reveal. So like basically, yes, you know, she's been hanging around. She's been administering to patients and like guiding them around and this kind of stuff. But it's during this phone call that, yes, she doesn't even ever get a first fucking name. She's just Nurse Forsyth. Forsyth.
Yeah.
And she is played by Lynn Lowry. But during this phone call, when Rollo is giving this exposition dump, she is literally stripping for Dr. Roger. And this is kind of the reveal that, oh, they're in a sexual relationship together.
Oh, I do have information on this, too. So apparently they took, because she was supposed to be fully nude for this scene. And
that's not necessary.
Well, and that's the thing. She's like, I've done nudity before. Like, I don't have a problem with nudity. I don't see why I have to be nude in this scene. And they were like, okay, never mind then.
Right. And folks, I would say she's probably the second best, or maybe the other famous person in this cast, because of course she's also in George A. Romero's The Crazies.
I've never seen the original Crazies.
Me neither. Yeah, I've only seen that remake, which I do like.
I like it. I don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, so she offers to keep dinner warm for him because he says, oh, well, I'm meeting this other guy. We're going to go and take a look at this other patient because his wife asked me to look in on him. And she says, like, basically she just keeps saying, oh, well, you could come to my apartment afterwards. He's like, well, it could be late. And she's like, I'll keep it warm for you. Like, you can tell she's way more invested in the relationship than he is. And I think it's a fascinating mirror to what we already know of Nick and Janine, because this feels kind of similar, except that Dr. Roger is not infected by worms. Sexual
not yet.
worms. So
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, we talked about the kind of doctor archetypes in Cronenberg films before. I don't think Roger quite fits to it because this isn't his experiment. It's not like he's the one who orchestrated this. In some ways, he's just trying to kind of clean up the mess. He's more like an Argento hero where he's like kind of caught in something bigger than himself and he has to investigate or discover, you know, the secret meaning behind it.
He's just a doctor instead of a detective or a cop.
Yeah. And I do wonder what would happen if there had been someone a little bit more dynamic in this role, or I don't know, maybe Cronenberg advised him, hey, I want you to play this guy a bit aloof. He just doesn't really seem to care. He never really seems to get too upset or invested. Like, I think we get moments where it does seem very obvious he cares for Forsyth, but she clearly is more interested in him than he in her.
Well, he didn't do very many movies after this, although, Joe, he does play prosecution in Waxwork 2, Lost in Time. So
not Waxwork again. It's been like a year since we talked about Waxwork. Just
so
keeps coming back.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. In the pantheon of terrible actors in lead roles in Cronenberg films, no one is ever going to beat Scanners. The guy who is in that movie is just a wet fucking blanket and kind of ruins the movie for me. I don't have that here with this guy, but I just don't think that he's the most interesting person in the film.
Well, so I hear maybe this will shine some light on it. He's a singer-songwriter first and an actor second. So like songs he has written have been recorded by Sammy Davis Jr., Bette Midler, Tom Jones, Ricky Nelson, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash. Idina Menzel did a cover of one of his songs for a baseball game once. So that seems to be his area of expertise. And maybe he tried out acting for a bit. Didn't really work out.
Yeah. Clearly, he's better and more successful in other areas. So
yes.
This is his rare step outside of that comfort zone, maybe. Okay, so as Forsyth is reminding him, yeah, you should definitely come up for dinner later, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because as you mentioned earlier, Trace, we actually don't get to see anyone consummate a relationship in this movie. Like, no one actually gets to the sex part. But as she's saying this, we do see Delivery Boy, who was played by Charles Purley, getting attacked by the laundry lady. So he's there delivering food. She cracks open the door. She takes one look at him, decides that she's hungry for love.
I'm
and
hungry for love. Yeah. Oh, good use of this woman. I'm glad that they brought her back out. Actually, I feel like by the end, like because Cronenberg does such a good job of introducing almost all of the main players in this movie, and some not main players in this movie, that even when they show up later, you're like, oh yeah, that person.
Oh, that person. Yeah, I recognize her from the laundry room sequence. Okay.
I mean, she does have that tacky ass dress that she's wearing, but yes.
Oh boy, yeah. I wrote in my notes, is that Mrs. Mack from Black Christmas? And it is not, but she is wearing a muumuu that looks like what Miss Mack gets for Christmas from the girls.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know if you remember, in Snakes on a Plane, there's that woman who falls asleep and the snake like bites her eyeball, and she looks like the exact same muumuu that she's wearing in this movie.
Oh god, maybe all muumuus just look the same to us.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like there's green and yellow in it. When you put green and yellow on an article of clothing, like it stands out.
It's not the best color combo either. So okay. So Forsyth has basically gone back to her apartment to cook dinner for Roger in the hopes that he will turn up later. And a man just bursts in.
Yes.
Begins sexually assaulting her. She stabs him with a meat fork and then bails to go to Roger's apartment to seek safety. And when they come back, well, technically he comes back and she ends up following him for a weird lazy jump scare, but he finds that this man is gone, but there's blood and the apartment is in chaos. But I think that this is the shift in the film. So basically we're starting to get random attacks from characters we've never met before, and you don't know when someone is going to fall prey to it.
And I like what you said earlier. Like, this is more of a zombie film than like any other kind of film. And there's something, again, just very fun about this single location. We can only be in this apartment complex. You know, we're used to seeing zombie movies across cityscapes and things like that, or in a mall if you want to be like, if you want to go with Dawn of the Dead. But there's something about being trapped here, and it'll get worse later, especially as Roger St. Luke keeps trying to escape, and it is not going to happen. But there's something so claustrophobic about this apartment complex, every room in it.
That, and even the fact that a lot of people have their doors shut. And, you know, we will even see when Forsyth ends up having to help this older French couple because the woman has gotten burned on her arm because the slug came up her cane. Mm-hmm. You know, when we go into their apartment, we deadbolt the door. And then she leaves to go and find Roger, and they deadbolt the door after her. And the Horde still breaks it down. So, like, just because you're in your apartment and the door is locked and shut, you're not safe.
I think that's something that's really scary, too, is, because that scene you're talking about, like, we kind of stay with that old couple on the inside as we are just, but we cut back every now and then. But, like, they can't do anything. They can't go anywhere. They are just waiting, hoping that door doesn't open. And it immediately gets busted open.
And in other kinds of genre films, like if this were a zombie film, they would be fine because they're not making any noise. You know, it's not like they're cooking and they're luring the zombies in accidentally or something. It's just like, oh, these infected know that there are people behind doors, so they just start breaking them down, looking for other people.
Well, and that goes back to the question, you know, is because, they know that they know people live in that apartment, or just because in all apartments, or did they pick up on their pheromones? Because by the end of this movie, everyone is infected. Like, there is children are infected in this movie, which is also wild that we go there.
Oh my God, yes, because there's two shitty kids that we do see running around the hallways earlier, and they get, you know, this little scare because they see a slug coming through the mail slot in some random apartment, and then they run away, and you think, oh, okay, well, that's kind of cute, kind of funny, but no, I mean, this is David Cronenberg, so we're going to introduce kids, and then we're going to show them on leashes being walked and barking like dogs in the stairwell later.
Okay, it's funny, but it is that is a moment that's simultaneously funny and shocking. And it did get laughs when I screened it, but I was like, yeah, this is funny, but it's one of those ones where you kind of laugh, you're like, oh wait, this is gross. What the fuck are we doing here? You're like, yeah.
Because these are kids, like under 10. And I think they may be naked or they're in their underwear when we see them being walked.
I think I mean, they either way, they have a collar and a leash on them, but then they're being walked by an adult. So, like, it is, like, that's the kink, I guess.
I guess so, yes. Okay, so we do have the mother in the elevator as well as elevator daughter, who are played by Joan Blackman and Kristen Bishop respectively. So they end up getting basically trapped in the elevator with the delivery man who was infected by the laundry woman. So I love the sort of, I'm going to say, restraint of this, because once again, we're cross-cutting. So we see him come in and they start to scream and the door on the elevator closes. And then when it opens back up, all three of them are infected. We think maybe that the mother has just died because she doesn't seem to be moving. And then we have them attacking the doorman, but the mother does get up. And I love the judicious amount of slow motion that we use.
Yeah.
So we go into slow-mo as they basically get this doorman down on the ground. And then we see the little girl go in for a kiss to pass the slug.
Yeah. Also, I'm just like, because the way he confronts them, like he has a handful of this cherry pie and he's just like licking it, but like in a very
so gross.
It's so provocative. And again, like, I mean, you know, we've talked about how you can film horror scenes like this with children and not have them actually like be witnessing the things they're seeing. You know, go back and listen to our Mysterious Skin episode. But like, there's not really a way around that here, because this girl is doing stuff that I was like, oh wow, this is kind of brazen actually.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I don't know that there's any good men in this movie apart from Roger St. Luke, but even as the movie progresses, we will quickly come to realize he is not a hero, because he will fully abandon women at the drop of a hat to either save himself or save himself and Forsyth. But almost all the other men are just immediately coded as terrible. Like this delivery man, we don't know anything about him, obviously, but the minute he gets infected, that scene is just so lecherous and provocative. The way that he is leering at this mother and her underage daughter in the elevator and just like, I'm eating this and I'm thinking of you.
Because we also get a POV shot in this scene from the delivery man's point of view, because Cronenberg does a lot of wide shots in this movie. Like, he really doesn't do too many extreme close-ups. But when this man is approaching the mother, the camera gets up in her face. Yeah. And again, that adds tension to it.
It does. Yeah. And it makes us complicit in some of the violence as well, right?
Which is probably why so many people did find this so disturbing back in the day. I mean, again, to be clear, it is still disturbing now. There's still just, this aspect.
Well, there's 50 years of difference between it. So,
but I would imagine, though, that's also maybe why some people had such a big problem with it back 50 years ago. Because it's like, it does make you feel complicit in some of these scenes.
Yeah, and the subject matter is confronting. I mean, from this point on, it's basically just characters trying to avoid getting raped.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
slugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so speaking of, we're back at Nick's place. This is the sex scene, and it's very uncomfortable. It's super rapey. As you said, I mean, there is that genuine moment of character where Janine essentially excuses herself to go to the bathroom. She looks so upset, and yet she's like, I guess I'm going to go through with this until she comes back out and she sees that he's essentially coughing up blood onto the pillowcase.
Well, and then, again, I think this is like one of the most iconic shots in the film, where it's like, you just see him on the bed, she's sitting over him, and you just see a slug like peep out of its mouth.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh, this body's nearly trashed, so I just need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because do we even see Nick again?
Oh, yeah, because remember, he gets killed. He kills Linsky.
That is right. Thank you.
But he has no part in the climax of this film because Nick is dead before that even happens, which is a bit of a subversion. Like, you would expect him to be a main player in the climax.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's take the action downstairs because remember, Roger has left Forsyth, so we cleared out her apartment, but we couldn't find the person she stabbed. He said, okay, stay in my apartment. You'll be safe there. I'm going to go and investigate. So he goes downstairs to the garbage room, and this is where he is attacked by Garbage Room Man, who is played by Sonny Forbes, one of only a few black actors in this film. And it's interesting, I never saw this scene interpreted this way, but when I read Zapp's review, Zapp describes this as, in one scene, he is attacked by a man who proceeds to kiss him on the back of the neck. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, I always just thought that this guy was grabbing him from behind because essentially Roger is using a crowbar to go through the trash because I can't remember why, but he thinks that there's a slug in there. He's looking for something and he does end up finding it. And then this man attacks him. But I rewatched it after I read Zapp's review. And there is a moment, it's very brief and fleeting, but this man comes up behind him, kind of bear hugs him, but it's not like I'm biting your neck because people don't do that in this movie. We're not trying to draw blood. Mm-mm. So it looks like he's trying to kiss his neck or give him a hickey. And Roger St. Luke just throws this guy off and immediately beats him to death with a crowbar. And it feels like gay panic.
100%. Because again, you're right. We do get queerness in this movie, but not a ton.
Betts is like the biggest example, and then we talked about the two gay men in the bikinis. Yeah. But like he actively avoids those guys. Like when they come and knock in, he goes a hide-in.
I actually wish that sequence was a bit more of a set piece because I do like the idea of the predatory gay being turned into an actual like suspenseful scene, and it's also just kind of like, hey, y'all are so afraid of gays coming after you. This is what you should be afraid of.
Gays with slugs in their mouths.
Gays with slugs, sex slugs. Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, so this is the point where someone, I don't ever know if we get confirmation, maybe it doesn't matter, but somebody cuts the phone lines. We see it.
Oh, yeah, we don't see it.
Kind of a disembodied hand does this. And of course, this happens just as Forsyth is trying to call the police because she is helping these French couple. They've locked themselves in their apartment and she's like, oh, fuck. Okay, well, I can't get through to the police, so I need to go and check on Roger. And she essentially leaves these people behind, tells them to lock the door. She leaves, and immediately the door gets broken down and these people die.
Yeah. I can't believe we don't get a scene of someone trying to hide into their apartment while someone, like, one of these things busts in and, like, tries to find them. But
yeah, we don't really do that kind of sequence in this film, do we? It's really just like, oh, people come in and they find you and they try to attack you.
Which maybe that makes it scarier, you know, because I feel like that is more of a traditional horror movie scene, you know, where it's like, oh, someone runs, hides under the bed, you're waiting. But so maybe that's beneath Cronenberg.
Or just it's the kind of movie where you simply cannot hide. Like you need to either escape or you will die or you'll be infected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so Forsyth ends up in the garage as well, and she tries to steal a car, and she nearly gets there, except that there's another man who is down there already sexually assaulting another woman. We don't know who these people are, but she manages to get into this car, and then a man attacks her. So this is a whole separate other man who attacks her in this yellow car. And this is when Roger shows up. He's got a gun and he blasts this guy away. So now we're actively killing infected people. We're not trying to reason with them. We're not trying to fight them off. It's just,
I mean, what can you do?
You can't. And it took Roger a couple tries to figure that out.
Right.
So we decide, let's get in the car and get the fuck out of here.
Dude, okay. There aren't really like a ton of like special effects in this movie outside of the puppets. Mm-hmm. This car crash is really cool looking.
Yeah, no, it's kind of hardcore to the point that I wrote in my notes, I don't think you would survive this, because it's definitely they're going to take off. And this other man who was sexually assaulting the woman, he gets into his car and basically T-bones them right into a concrete pillar. And the damage to their yellow car is significant. Like it looks as if Forsyth should be dead.
Well, and actually, because we don't know this yet, but Forsyth has already been infected by this point. She was infected before Roger killed that man that was assaulting her.
Yeah, and this is another one of those, we don't know until she reveals it later, and we have to kind of speculate when it happened. I do think it's when this man was attacking her before
in the car,
Roger blew him away.
Yeah, for sure. Because also, that's the thing is when the car gets T-boned, we see blood on her mouth, but but I think as an audience member, you're just kind of like, oh, well, like that's obviously from the car, because he also like backed into something before the car crash that like you can really see them just kind of like get jerked back and forth.
Yes. Yeah.
Apparently that was real, by the way.
I was going to say, I don't think we had many stunt drivers in this movie.
Yeah, no, because Lowry does have an interview on this Blu-ray where she's like, oh yeah, no, that was real. Like, we got whiplash. But yeah, so basically Forsyth is kind of like half knocked out during this. Mm-hmm. Roger pushes the windshield out. Still totally intact windshield, by the way. Love that touch.
Yeah, it's great.
And just drags Forsyth around.
Yes, but we're still cross-cutting, of course, because we've got a billion characters in this movie. So this is where we see Merrick execute his trap with the people who are complaining about the noise. This is also the moment where Betts ultimately infects Janine. So...
Okay, wait. But I love the moment. So this is, again, split up. But the moment when Janine walks into Betts' apartment and she's on the balcony. And again, this slow motion again, where Barbara Steele like just turns around and it is...
She looks like $1 million.
Oh, it's so cool. But like in any other movie, this shot would be like in a romance movie. But this is the killer sex slug movie. And it's so good.
Well, and here's the thing. I had completely forgotten about the queerness until I rewatched this when Terry and I were doing our David Lynch and David Cronenberg podcast. So I was like, oh, wow, there's actually a bunch of not so hidden queerness in this film.
Yeah.
But I had completely forgotten that Betts ultimately ends up putting the moves on Janine. But this is also classic predatory lesbian behavior, right? You know, Janine comes in, she's crying about Nick, she's very, very upset, she's got her head in Betts's lap, and then Betts essentially says, oh, you know, I mean, it's sort of terrible friend behavior, because she says, oh, you shouldn't cry, you know, like you should just kiss me, you should make love to me. And if you saw it out of context, you would think, oh, well, this is the start of, you know,
a
Quebec porno. This is Valerie Part 2 starring Janine and Betts. But it's so unnerving because you realize, I mean, we already knew Betts was infected, but she's using the same lines that the older woman was saying and Nick was using.
Oh, yeah. Well, because the other thing, because Betts doesn't get violent in this scene, but it's also because Janine doesn't resist her enough to where she has to get violent. And so...
Exactly.
But I do think, though, as an audience member, it is kind of a shock that we lose Janine this early. I mean, there's probably like 30 minutes left of the movie, but still, like she doesn't make it to Act 3.
No, and it's not the kind of scene where you think, oh, okay, well, she's going to get infected by this. You think, okay, she's going to find a way out of this, and then she'll meet up with Roger and Forsyth, and then the three of them will get in a car and they'll get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no.
But I do want to say, I think the most impressive special effect for me is seeing the slug go from one throat to the other.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it, and I fucking love it.
It has to be a neck piece on each of the women, or actually, because the shot's a close up of the throats, so I wonder if that's actually
it may not even be the actors.
It's just a neck piece, absolutely.
Yeah, but I love it because if you're not paying close attention, I think you can also miss it because it is kind of subtle. You disagree?
I mean, it's a big old lump in that throat, and we get 2 of them. But now, I do think it's easy to miss if you're not looking for those 5 seconds, but yes.
Sure, okay.
But no, these are big old bulges in their necks. They're not supposed to be there.
Right, yeah. Okay, so we touch base with Roger and Forsyth. As you mentioned, he's basically taken her out of the car. He reassures her, don't worry, Rollo will be here and he will bring the police. So all we have to do is kind of stay alive, stay out of danger for long enough. Trace, let's talk about what happens to Rollo. So,
oh my God.
I mean, he's such an unserious character in certain regards, right? Like, he was way too flippant. He was way nonchalant about statutory rape. He was so desperate for Roger's pickle in that earlier scene. And you think, okay, but surely he's going to understand the gravity of the situation when he arrives at Starliner. There's no phone. Things look totally fucked up. But no, he just goes right up to Nick's apartment, goes in, and essentially gets, like, face slugged immediately.
Well, okay, he sees like Nick on the bed and there are like things moving under the covers and he's like, oh, let me see what's going on here, I guess. And he opens and he looks at the slugs and he's just in so much shock that this thing just jumps on his face. But this guy, I mean, Cronenberg had it out for this actor because this guy, so his face gets all melted and he is just screaming like, help me, help me, help me. Nick wakes up and then has to fucking beat the shit out of this guy.
Yeah, and this is interesting, right? Because we haven't seen, I mean, I think the closest is the garbage man who goes after Roger because Roger has a slug on the crowbar. And so maybe they'll also react violently or more, not sexually violently, but just violently if they see that a slug is in danger, because we've never seen them execute violence on people. Like, typically you would just be trying to infect Rollo, but instead, because Rollo is beating at this slug with like a wrench or something in the sink, it seems like Nick just goes ape shit on him, and then we're playing around with Rollo's blood above the corpse in the kitchen.
I mean, again, there's not like gore. There is blood. There's not gore in this scene, but like I would say the most violent scene in the movie, and I think it's key that it's not a moment of sexual violence.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting in that capacity, right? Because so much of the rest of the film is just like, oh yeah, that person's getting face raped. Oh yeah, that person's getting jumped on and so on. Okay, let's talk about arguably the weirdest part of the film, and obviously it'll make more sense when you understand that Forsyth has already been infected, but we do have to hear her talk about, I had a dream where I was fucking an old man and it wasn't working well, but then he told me everything is erotic, everything is sexual. He tells me that even old flesh is erotic flesh, even dying is an act of eroticism.
So Lowry in her interview said, I thought that was a really weird monologue. And I really like it. I like this monologue. I think this is really cool. Also, I mean, because anytime I hear old flesh, I'm just thinking about Videodrome. Old flesh, new flesh. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a recurring theme in Cronenberg's oeuvre.
I would also argue that this anticipates the kinds of conversations that we have in Crash, because James Spader's wife has a conversation where she talks about a dream where she was like having sex and they were talking about eroticism, and, you know, obviously she wants him to describe what it was like having sex with the other guy.
Yeah, with Elias Koteas.
There we go. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong that this will obviously be one of Cronenberg's thematic interests that he will explore in many, many of his films. But I guess it's just so fascinating to see him getting philosophical with it in this, his very first kind of big feature genre film. Because
I'm not going to lie, you know, I feel like in a lot of these types of movies, you know, they're doing the convincing to the other person, you know, like, oh, like, you know, you should join us because it's great. Everyone's nice, you know, whatever.
Right. It's the faculty version of it, you know. Yeah. We came to your planet. You should join us because everybody's happier. This is very much like, sex can be great.
And honestly, out of all these movies that I've seen with a scene that's kind of similar to this, this is the most convincing argument I've seen for joining the aliens.
All right. Yeah. Let's descend into a mindless orgy of just pleasure.
Nothing matters. Like you just fuck everything and you don't think about it.
It's also interesting because I would argue we don't know a ton about any of the characters. I don't think characterization is a strong suit of this particular film. And as I mentioned off the top, I think it's actually because it's less about a single character and more about what goes on within the course of the building.
Well, because the structure of it's almost more like a disaster movie where it's like an ensemble piece.
Yes. Yeah. But it's fascinating because, like, we don't know much about Forsyth. I didn't realize she was this erudite or philosophical, but this is, you're not wrong, also the best argument that we have heard from someone who is infected to talk about what the experience is like.
Right. Yes. Because we don't get, these people aren't talking. They're just like,
here, take the slug, but...
Yeah. So again, like, this also feels out of character for a slug person in this movie, but I'm really glad it's here.
Yeah. And again, it's because she has this existing relationship with Roger. So maybe she doesn't need to attack him. She's trying to woo him over to their cause, to their side. I mean, it works as long as she's talking. But then the minute that slug starts to peek out of her mouth, he just punches her full in the face.
Joe, I mean, I posted this on all my socials yesterday.
You definitely posted this. And I think that this is why you sometimes get into trouble from people who don't know you.
To the context, they're like, I like punching women.
Yeah, here's a picture of a man punching a woman in the face, and you're like, this is so funny.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. If I had posted the clip of Nicolas Cage in that bear suit punching a woman in The Wicker Man, would I have the same issue?
No, because I think that is just undeniably funny.
Okay, well, so here's the thing, though. I could have posted that clip where it was just him punching her, but I included the part where her slug comes out of her mouth. So at least it's known. But either way, I agree. I agonized about this for like an hour because I got really high after I posted that. And I was like, oh my God, people gonna think I'm a misogynist. People gonna think I hate women. Oh my God, my humor's not right. Blah, blah, blah. But fuck it, whatever. It's a guy punching a woman in the face, and it's done really fun. This is funny. I would argue it's so funny that it does cut out some of the tension of this scene.
It does. This is a tricky thing. So we know from interviews, specifically with later films with Cronenberg, that he often finds many of his films very funny, including the deeply upsetting ones, including the moments of violence, right? Yeah. So in some ways, I could imagine him saying, oh, well, this is actually funny. I don't know if it's intended that way. It's just that it's so shocking, right? Because she's got this beautiful, weird monologue, and then, oops, slug, and his immediate reaction is
just
no flinching, just punches her in the face, and she's knocked out.
And we get a little from her as she gets hit.
Yeah.
So, y'all just go to my Instagram. Go watch this shit if you haven't seen it. It's so funny. It's so funny.
It is funny, yes. But again, I just don't know if the film actually thinks of it that way, but it is kind of undeniably funny.
I think it's funny because it's not done in a way that makes it scary. Yeah. But anyway, he still thinks he can save her. So his solution to this is, let me just gag her mouth and I'll bring her with me.
This is interesting, right? Because I think her arms are still loose, but she doesn't try to free herself. She's just kind of content to be dragged along. Her mouth is still profusely bleeding because, I mean, I've seen a bunch of different analyses try to figure out exactly how the slugs work. Part of me thinks that's a bit of a fool's errand, like, doesn't really matter. But most people seem to speculate that they do live in the stomach, which makes sense if you want to think of it thematically, because it's about appetite, like a sexual appetite. So, of course, they live in your stomach. But it does seem to cause quite a lot of mouth bleeding. So people are just constantly bleeding from the mouth if they're infected in this film. So including her. Here she's gagged, and we just see, the whole gag is just covered in blood for the rest of it. One of my favorite scenes, I think you could probably lift it out almost wholesale. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but where they're basically going down this hallway of wooden, I think they're storage lockers.
Yeah,
and we don't know that people are in there until they bust out and just start attacking them. And this is, to me, the closest approximation of a zombie film.
It's so funny too, because I actually think one of the Resident Evil games like totally cribs this, and I don't know. I mean, because there's a scene in Resident Evil 2, the one when you're in the police station, where you're walking by. And, there's zombies in the hallways, of course, but there's this hallway where there's no zombies, and there are boarded up windows. And if you walk too close to them, zombie arms will come through the windows and grab you. And I'm like, oh, so these wooden slats really call it. Because I agree. This feels like a room that's under construction for something. I couldn't tell you what the construction is for, but it looks so striking. This looks so different from anywhere else in the building because so much of this building is like really nice apartment shit. And then you have this room.
Yeah. It does remind me a little bit of Romero's Day of the Dead. Like, you always see that meme of the woman walking by the wall and then the hands just reach out and try to grab at her.
Oh, yeah.
But then I realized that's after this movie.
I don't think I realized that was from Day of the Dead. I thought that was a supernatural, like, ghost movie. I did not realize that was a zombie because I've never seen Day of the Dead.
Well, there is a Polanski film where hands come out of the wall as well, but it's not quite as sudden.
Yeah, I think it is Day of the Dead. I think I know the meme you're talking about, or the GIF you're talking about.
Because she's basically like kind of rolling along the wall, and then it's like, rah!
Yeah, but when the hands come out, she's kind of, oh, God, I was about to go, Mah! But you couldn't see like the motion of my face.
No, we're both doing it. We're both making hand motions, and people are just hearing us making cat noises. Welcome back to this audio medium, folks. This is why we need to pivot to video, Trace. Because
not for the money, but
not for the money,
just so we can do things like this.
We can make cat motions. Yes. Okay, so this is where Roger starts to fall apart in a traditional hero kind of mode because we get separated from Forsyth and he fully abandons her. He just runs away.
But at this point, though, because I write my notes, like people attack, Forsyth stays behind to fuck. Like she's already wanting to fuck these people. So
100%. Somebody climbs on top of her.
He has realized that she is a lost cause. And also in this situation, I mean, look, what are you going to do?
Well, we know what you would do because you're selfish and you're like, no, I can't help this person. So bye.
You have to assess the situation. If you cannot help the person, why are you going to sacrifice yourself and die with them? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so I see you. I actually agree with you in this instance. But then in the very next scene, because he's now by himself, he's just running around Starliner Apartments. He sees a woman being assaulted by a man, and she's still clearly fine because she's fighting this guy off. He has a gun, and he does not do anything. He just leaves her to continue being assaulted. And then this is where he goes to Nick's apartment, and then he sees Rollo, who is clearly already dead, and then he shoots Nick about 5 times.
Ooh, yeah. You know what? I did not clock the leaving of the other woman, so point taken.
Yeah. And again, I'm not going to suggest like, oh no, he's a terrible dude or something. It was just more, we've reached the point where he realizes he's not going to put himself out to try to save anybody anymore.
Yeah, but also bear in mind, my selfish ass, if I had a gun and I was seeing a woman get sexually assaulted, I would for sure shoot the guy. But
that's the thing. I was like, it's not even like he tries to shoot and realizes he has no bullets and has to make a run for it. I was just like, oh no, Dr. Roger, you're shitty.
I mean, you could argue maybe he's having a little bit of PTSD because he just saved Forsyth by shooting the man on top of her and she was still infected. So
yeah. Who can you trust at this stage?
Exactly. So I think that's what we're meant to be doing here. But yeah, it's a little weird. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we go from finding Rollo's body, shooting Nick, and then he's in the stairwell. This is the kids on the leashes. He just nopes out of there immediately. Just, oh, what? No, leaves. This is where he has then the run-in with the gays. So we've got one in yellow briefs. We've got one in blue briefs. He locks himself in his apartment.
I wrote my notes. I wrote my notes. I do think this is really creepy. And I love the peephole vision because, they're out there and they're just like, hey, man, come on. Like,
don't you want to go to a party?
Yeah, don't you want to
I love it.
I find this genuinely creepy. Like, this is really well done. And they only don't break down because, again, we've seen that they can break down doors. So those stakes have been established. They just get distracted by another sexual event going on.
Literally that. Oh, somebody else? Cool. Bye. We'll come back for you later if we remember. I think I also skipped over it. He might before he gets to his apartment or maybe afterwards. There's a moment where he goes into somebody's apartment.
Oh, it's after.
It's a much older man with his younger daughter, and the guy basically says, hey, do you want to fuck my daughter? And then he starts making out with her.
I know. He says his daughter, and I was like, girl. You are that girl's grandfather.
The age discrepancy is significant, but yeah. So it basically means that we're doing stuff with kids on leashes. We're doing incest. We're doing statutory rape with underage minors. Like, the movie has no taboos. It will not cross.
But this is going back to what you were saying earlier. If you have no context for any of this, if you have not seen this movie and you are hearing us talk about this,
it's not nearly as salacious.
It's not nearly as salacious. I mean, look, it earns the R rating for sure, but I have seen way more like offensive in that way movies like than this. Like this, I'm not going to say tasteful. This is not a tasteful movie, but
it's like the most tasteful taboo film you've ever seen.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe this is where I truly see where Cronenberg will ultimately go, is that he doesn't want to dig into the dirtiness of it, right? You know, he's fine to sort of candidly present it, let you as an audience member be disturbed by it, but he doesn't linger on it. He doesn't try to say, oh my God, isn't this offensive? Isn't this shocking and disgusting? Yeah. It's like, no, he presents it and then we move on. And if you are affected by it, that's up to you.
Like, it never feels... I think the difference between an exploitation film and something like this, though, is I feel like with an exploitation film, the film is, like, trying to rankle you. You know, it's like, look at this. And I don't feel like that from Cronenberg's films. I don't feel like Cronenberg is sitting here saying, are you grossed out by this right now? Like, isn't this sick? Oh, isn't it great? I don't feel that from any of his films, and I think it's because he shoots really controversial things like this.
Yeah, I think the other big piece is that we don't do anything with the score to be like, dun, 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 dun. Like, there's no music cue to tell you, oh my God, you should be incensed, or, oh, holy cow, I can't believe what we're seeing on screen right now. The whole movie is just kind of, yep. Mm-hmm,
and I think that's interesting, though, because, so we don't have a music score telling us how to feel about this. So we're looking at this. And so the audience member has to say, how do I feel about this? And that can be a really uncomfortable question to ask yourself when it's a man fucking his daughter.
Yeah, like what is your barometer? I think I said litmus test earlier. Mm-hmm. What is the thing that's going to get you over the hump of, oh, wow, I can't believe that this movie went there? And maybe for some of us, the answer is none of it. And maybe for some of us, it's the underage girl. Maybe it's the incest. Maybe it's children on leashes. It's like
all the rape, like
it could be any of it. Yeah. What upsets you? It's probably in here.
Yeah. And to be clear, I wouldn't show this movie to my family. Like, this is not a movie that I think they would particularly enjoy. But I think if you're even, like, have a moderate interest in horror films, like, this isn't the most shocking thing you've ever seen.
No. And isn't that the funniest thing? Because as soon as you said it, I thought, oh, man, if my mom had walked in while I was watching this, I would have been embarrassed because I know she would have judged me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Instead, it was just Crash, which we watched together on the couch.
Which also, though, I mean, again, deals with so many controversial things, but, like, you're not, like, there's not really a lot of actual sex in that movie.
Well, there's more sex than you maybe remember.
No, I'm sorry. I'm really thinking about the anus penis scene. Like, that's really the big one. But, like, even, like, whenever James Spader fucks Rosanna Arquette's leg wound, like, it's not particularly graphic. And it's, like, you get, like, a two thrust thing in there and then it's done. But, like... I don't know. Like, you're not seeing the penis enter the vaginal leg wound.
No, because that's not really the way that Cronenberg does stuff. But I mean, I would argue that it does earn its Audacity Award from Cannes.
Oh, it sure does. By the way, when I screened that at Weird Wednesday, so much laughter. Oh,
good. Okay. He would be delighted to hear that.
I don't know, man. It was really during that anus penis scene. I was just like, yo, this isn't like the most funny thing, but it's fine.
No,
like,
I actually love that scene.
Oh, I love the scene a lot, but I that was one of my Weird Wednesdays where I could tell people were very perplexed walking out of that movie, which I get it, but
here's the thing. I don't think I want to watch Crash for the first time with a crowd of people who haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I don't have that experience.
Yeah, that was interesting. But anyway, okay.
All right, we're basically up to the pool finale. So Roger is by himself. He winds up downstairs in the pool. He's trying to find an exit. This is our reintroduction to Betts and Janine. I mean, I guess in some ways love did win because they're just hanging out in the pool having what appears to be a pretty decent time. And I love that they just stay in the pool and they watch him as he tries to find his way out in the glass sliding doors, and then he tries to make a break for it. Cronenberg just kind of sets up the camera and lets it roll as he goes over this hill, and we wait for a beat, and then he comes running back because there's a fucking horde of infected people.
This is scary, man.
Oh my God, it's terrifying.
Because I love it too, because I love the beat when he goes over and we're like, okay, cool. But yeah,
you're like, he made it. Okay, yay. No.
And then he just walks kind of further down this little levee, and but I mean there's nowhere for him to go, so his only thing that he can do is go back inside the pool, which doesn't have a locked door.
No, and people are coming in from stairwells and other places, so basically they have him surrounded. I love that old couple, the French couple, the guy just takes the cane, the walker, and pushes Roger into the pool. So now we've got all these people, and in some ways I think if you turned off the sound and just watched the scene in isolation, you would think, oh, we're having a pool party, isn't this super fun, because we push this guy in, people start cannonballing, and then you realize they are swarming him. We should note that Forsyth is in the mix. She has changed outfit. She's wearing like a purple halter crop top thing. Looks fucking great, very sexy. And she basically just makes her way through the crowd so that she can crowd surf to get to him. Big open mouth kiss in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Roger is now infected. We have lost every human being in this film.
I kind of love that she's the one to infect him too.
Me too.
Like
I love it.
That feels appropriate.
It does feel appropriate. Like in some ways, we got Betts infecting Janine, which also feels appropriate. Nick was left by himself to murder some dude and then get killed unceremoniously. Like in some ways, the people get the ending that they deserve in the film, but also I think about this ending a lot. I don't think you could get away with this ending in many horror films. I just find it so fucking effective. And it makes you realize that there's been very little dialogue in about the last 20 minutes of this film.
For 100%. Forgive me if you've already said this, but like the slow motion used in this, like the end of the sequence, it's so good.
Here's the thing. I love slow motion when you know when to use it and you use it for impact, because too many people, it's like, I get it. John Woo can do it. But it's like, you're not John Woo when you're giving me all of your bullshit slow-mo action. But like Cronenberg knows how to use the couple of moments of slow motion in this film because they fucking hit.
And it's like it's a different kind of slow motion, because it almost is like a slow motion mixed with jump cuts in a way. It's hard to describe it, but it's like people are like almost like shifting like a flip book instead of just like we're like in slow motion.
Oh my God, Trace, you just unlocked something for me. It's reminiscent of the slideshow that opens the film.
Oh my God. Yes, it is. It is. Oh, there we go. Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Regardless, it really fucking works. And it's such a fantastic way to end this film. Although we should note, this is not the actual end, because there's this cute little coda where we just see the garage door open and it's Roger and Forsyth in the lead car. Everybody has gotten into their vehicles and we watch them drive out in a line to quite obviously make the 12.5-minute drive into downtown Montreal. And we hear a news report. It's 5:26 a.m. There have been reports of sexualized attacks and the police are investigating.
Oh, a citywide plague of violent sexual assaults in Montreal. And I love that we hear this over the credits. Like, and I'm telling you, like, in a theater, like, this actually does, I think, hit for a lot of people, where you're just like, oh.
It's the end of Body Snatchers, where you realize we've lost. Yeah, the world is done after this. Like, you better go live on an island or you're fucked. Which is so interesting, because Cronenberg's next movie is Rabid, which shares a lot of similar DNA. Not just, it's a doctor who does a strange medical procedure. It results in something that creates a kind of sexually transmitted, like appendage virus thing. Good movie, slightly different, but like, the end of that movie, spoiler alert, is the person who is patient zero dying and having her body dumped in the back of a dump truck. Like, it's the complete opposite of the end of this film. Oh, we totally got this wrapped up and this person is trash. Literal trash.
I've never seen Rabid. That's one of those ones I'm just like, I feel like I have to be in the mood to watch it. The idea of Rabid really grosses me out.
I think you would like it. It honestly makes for a good double bill with this film.
I believe it. There's something about an armpit phallic.
It's a proboscis.
Yeah. Proboscis are not something I enjoy watching, actually. It's funny. It's because I always think about that big brain bug in Starship Troopers whenever the big proboscis comes out, but it has like a big snot glob on it. It's so gross.
You don't get to see a ton of it, and more often than not, it's Marilyn Chambers, the porn star who is the lead actress in the film. It's basically her kind of grabbing onto people, and then you see their reaction, and that tells you that, oh, okay, she's punctured them and so on.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, again, there's a bunch of Cronenberg that I still need to see, but Rabbit is still one of my big blind spots.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway. Well, Joe, anything else to say about Shivers?
So I feel like I started off the episode saying, oh, this isn't my favorite. It's Cronenberg working out the kinks. I don't think it's shot quite as well. Some of the acting is really flat. I still really, really like it. I mean, there isn't a bad Cronenberg. There's better Cronenberg films, but it was nice to revisit this and get to have the conversation with you. And also, I hope that people will check out this 50-year-old movie, because I do feel like if people know Cronenberg, they probably have watched his later, more American-style entries. And this is like the one that kicks it all off, folks. You can see the genesis of all of his storytelling. This is him starting to put it together.
Oh, hell yeah. Big fan of this movie. I mean, honestly, I really liked it ever since my first viewing. I've seen it several times since then. Man, sex slugs, man.
Yeah. It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, I really like it. So, all right, everyone. Well, let us know what you thought of Shivers, especially if this was your first time, because I'm just dying to know if y'all hate us. But before we announce what we're covering next week, some quick housekeeping. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our Horror Queers Discord. The link is in the show notes. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want even more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you will get over 426 hours of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 2, Episodes 9 and 10, Bone Lake, sequels The Strangers Chapter 2 and Black Phone 2, and in anticipation of next month's brand new Predator film, an audio commentary on the animated film Predator Killer of Killers.
Yeah, I'm excited to finally check it out.
I am too, because I have heard really good things. But also, everyone, we have wrapped up our coverage of Alien Earth, but our requel tier is quiet, but not completely. There's a bunch of stuff there for now. So if you have not listened to our coverage on Alien Earth or The Last of Us Season 2, please go sign up now and listen.
There you go.
But, Joe, what are we covering next week?
Okay, well, we're actually going to keep a kind of infestation that takes over a small, dense area, but we're going to add a lot more levity and different kinds of practical effects into the mix. So we're going to go very silly and very fun, and a movie that I only just watched last year and discovered I fucking loved. Going to watch Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah, I also watched this for the first time last year. I think you beat me by like months, by the way. I do really like this. I don't love this movie, but really? I do.
Okay.
I do really like it. I just, come on, man. The girl is such a non-entity in this movie. Like, these boys gotta fuck.
Well, and that is why we're covering it, folks, because I watched it, immediately messaged Trace and was just like, this is a weird throuple element, eh?
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, come check it out, y'all. It's going to be a really fun time. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But until then, we can cross out Shivers.
Indeed. And cross out Horror Queers.
How can I describe this catastrophe? I had worked hard for nearly 2 years, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created.
Regarding Frankenstein is crowdfunding now. Go to bit.ly/REFrankenstein to support the show.